Okay, hello everyone. This is a business update on Samudera Shipping, dated first quarter 2024. Alright, the reason why I'm looking through this company, even though I'm not familiar with it, is because I had a conversation with friends, so I just decided to try and look at the annual report. Alright, so I'm not, I'm hardly an expert in this area, and generally I don't like covering cyclical companies, but I just did it as a out of interest sake. I got interested in the company after a conversation, right? So we look at their container shipping business first. They say that volume in first quarter 2024 is stable compared to first quarter 2023, right? They compare the same quarter in different years, right? So first quarter versus first quarter, because the fourth quarter tends to be traditionally higher than first quarter, so it's not so fair to compare this quarter with the previous quarter, which is fourth quarter 2023, right? So we look at volume wise, right? It's actually quite stable, right? Currently it's at 433,000 TEU, right? TEU is actually short for 20 foot equivalent unit, which I believe is this 20 foot long ISO container, right? So they actually delivered 433,000 TEU, right? Quite similar to last year's first quarter. Okay, however, you can see the average revenue per TU actually dropped quite significantly from 371 to 244, right? Which explains their pretty big revenue decline. Later on, we'll see. Right, so they say freight rates have been trending downwards since early 2023, okay, as seen by low average revenue per TU, right? And this clearly negatively impacts their operating margin, right? And they also have struggled from other issues such as port congestions, right, which result in longer turnabout times. That means they take longer to deliver the containers, which means that they make less money because their ships can't move around and deliver more containers, right, because of the congestions. Right, so for their bulk and tanker business, right, they are increasing their fleet size from 5 to 6 to 7, right? So chemical fleet size is the same, but gas fleet size has been increasing steadily, right, from 1 to 2 to 3 in this quarter. And I believe that this one is the one they just delivered here. Alright, so that means this is the third gas carrier. Alright, and then they are waiting for another gas carrier in second quarter 2024. So this will eventually become 4. Right, they say their vessels are fully employed under time charter contracts, which means I believe they have full demand. Alright, so it's totally leased out doing jobs. Right, they also have a logistics business, right, whose storage capacity is increasing, and the volume handled, I think, has improved relatively well, right? Looks like something like a almost 50% jump in volume handled, right? So that's the good news, right? So anyway, we look at the container shipping rates, right? So you can see that this is quite an old article. I need to say it's like February 2023, which is last year's February, right? So but I just wanted to have a look at the shipping rates right? So this month it costs 1,444 to ship a 40 feet steel container, right? So they always compare 40 feet steel containers, right? Down from a peak of 9,682, right? So you can see that the drop is very substantial, right? It's something like, I don't know how many times drop this is, but this is the reason why they the shipping is a very unpredictable industry, right? And one of the reasons why I don't really like it but obviously if you look at how the numbers jump, it can also surprise on the upside. Okay, so what's the reason for all this? Alright, I think it's just decline in demand for goods That's what they apparently said, right? So you can see the very sharp contrast in the shipping costs. Right, anyway, let's look at the annual report, right? So I won't talk about everything in the annual report, but I think that so far it appears the company is trying to expand, right? So you can see their footprint, right? Yeah, their dry bulk and tanker business, we talked about it. So these are the things that they do: oil, chemicals, gas, liquefied products, dry bulk. Alright, they also serve the Indonesian domestic market. Alright, so the vessels owned and leased by the fleet is at 31. So there are 31, sorry. There are 24 container vessels, 4 chemical tankers, and 3 gas tankers. Right, they're also expanding their logistics business. And if you look at Samudera, right, they seem to have a footprint in many places, right? So this is the founder, right? So it seems to be quite well respected, all right, in Indonesia and the company seems to be well respected as well, right? So there are awards for both the founder as well as the company itself, right? So no, this award is also for the founder, but it's for the company being a well respected player in the Asian maritime industry. Right, so you can see there are many JVs. Okay, I'm not particularly certain about why, but I think it's because they move around in many areas, and I suppose it makes sense to have JVs to have a common interest in furthering the business, right? So 2022 highest ever turnover, probably due to the fact that the shipping rates just jumped spectacularly though, right? So you can see they have quite a lot of footprint everywhere, right? So I think they are visibly trying to grow in I think India, Southeast Asia and Middle East, right? India and Southeast Asia clearly are growth areas, which I think I'm happy to see them go. Middle East, the only worry is the conflicts that happen there quite often lah, right? So it's a bit, I'm concerned that it will affect their business, right? But it seems like they said not directly affected so far, right? So their dividends quite high in FY 2023, which is 11 Singapore cents. Even if you base off today's price, which has risen substantially already, right? It's like more than 10% dividend yield, right? So you can see their performance has dropped, right? So this 2023's revenue is this, which is quite substantially lower than 2022, which was the year where the rates were very high, right? And therefore profit also correspondingly dropped to 1/3, right? So they say that the decline is expected, right? Because the shipping rates has gone back to normal, right? But the results are still better than the pre-pandemic years, right? So I won't talk too much about all these things, right? They are trying to expand, and I think they're doing it relatively how should I put it, conservatively. Yes, conservatively is the word I was trying to use. Alright, so basically you can see that they didn't buy all the ships, and they also didn't buy all the warehouses, right? So I'll try and show you that part. Let me try and see. Yeah, so you can see that a lot of things they actually try and lease, right? So what's the good thing about leasing? Alright, 5 owned and 20 chartered vessels, right? So I think this one is actually leased, alright. And if you look at their logistics space also, they also lease additional warehouse, right? So what's good is that with the demand contracts, okay, I believe that they can probably let go these lease warehouses lah. Okay, that's my assumption anyway, right? So yeah, I think seems to be a decently run business, alright, but I'm not sure about how to value a business like that, frankly. Okay, so I'll just quickly move on to the next part. This Q&A based on 29 April 2024, alright. So do note that currently the share price is, I think, already substantially higher. So there were a couple of mentions of it being undervalued. Alright, I don't think it is as undervalued as at this day lah. Okay, so just take note of that. Alright, so you see this shareholder has been around for 20 years, right? That's great, but they say that they don't have much information on the forward-looking plans for 24 and beyond. Right, the group CEO said that they will update it later, right? So profit guidance, alright, I think the shareholder is not happy because they said that the profit guidance had no information, and therefore people were worried, right? There were people that sold off the shares, right? So the group CEO seems to be okay with taking the feedback, right? So they'll take note, right? So the war in the Red Sea may be why the freight rate has been performing well, alright? So yeah, the group CEO is quite conservative. They say they can't really discuss at this Q&A session, right? So interim dividend too low, alright? So this one I don't think is a big deal, but I think the CEO seems to be quite receptive to the shareholders statements, which I think is a good thing, right? They seem to want to expand in Australia, yeah, because the current unstable situation in the west and northern part of the world means that yeah, they think Australia is a growth opportunity, right? So yeah, so they say here they are trying to expand in Southeast Asia, Middle East and India, right? So yeah, Middle East just concerned with the conflict over there lah, right? So they've increased their equity investment in LNG EW, which I believe is their joint venture company, right, with another company, right? So yeah, so the question says healthy cash balance, high net asset value and earning per share, but share price not performing, right? So remember that this was 29 April. I think the share price is not performing as well as now, which is 4th June. Alright, seems to be some gratitude from the shareholders. Alright, shares are deeply undervalued. Alright, but again, this was in April, not in June. Right, so they are not affected by the war. Right, freight rate and volume tend to increase under pressure in such crisis situations. But again, for this, because I think when the situation or war happens, people start to get desperate and import more. It's like in Singapore during COVID, right? They go and buy tissue paper and until the supermarket has no more tissue paper. But after that, clearly, if you look at what happens to tissue paper sales, I would expect that it drops significantly, right? So I'm not sure how long this high freight rate and volume will last, frankly. Okay, so yeah, they use bank borrowings. They say it's because they have good financial opportunities, right? So nothing too much about this, but I appreciate that they write down their Q&A, right? So anyway, this from Dr. Well. This is a very recent article, right? 3rd June 2024. It came out after I started reading, so that's why I just brought in the article, right? So the container shipping rate has hit a high in May 2024, right? So this will contribute to inflation, right? So you can see the chart here, right? Remember that the highest point for this was something like 9,682, alright, and now it's only like 4,000, right? So but I have to say that in the annual report they said that they are unlikely to go back to 9,000 plus, alright, so don't expect that to happen, or at least that's what the bosses said in the annual report, right? So they say the Red Sea is in danger zone, right? And the tariffs on Chinese goods may be forcing the Chinese to rush to import goods before the tariffs take place. So that's why this boost, right, might be a short-term effect. This boost in price may be a short-term effect. If so, I'm not sure if the shares are going up for a short-term effect. Right, it could be a long-term effect. I don't know. Right, so because things like Middle East conflict, you don't know when they'll stop. Right, and also US-China trade war, you don't know what else can come up from it. Right, so these are all the very unpredictable things. Right, you can see that different companies respond differently. Some do well, some don't. Alright, I think I don't want to say too much. Alright, just ultimately, I think Dr. Well summarized it very well. They say that shipping stocks are cyclical, making them unsuitable for buy and hold strategies. Alright, but it can be attractive to value investors who are accustomed to buying during downturns and selling when the cycle is up. Just that you don't know when the up cycle is coming, and you don't know when how bad the down cycle will be, given that many shipping stocks have rallied, there's less value. Okay, I think that is true for Samudera as well. It has recently gone up in price by a lot. But that being said, there may be more upside. I don't know. Alright, but I will still say that I'm very unfamiliar with the shipping industry, and this is one of the reasons why I don't want to get into it. Right, it's very, very cyclical and unpredictable nature. Right, again, this is not a inducement to buy or sell into the stock. Alright, and with that, I thank you for your time.